If you are someone who is looking to work with ayahuasca, maybe you have your retreat planned, you have your ceremony scheduled, and you already have an idea of, what you should be eating before the ceremony, but you're not as sure, not as clear on what you can do to best support yourself after the ceremony, then this video is for you. Hello, my friends, welcome back. My name is Danielle, and on this channel, we talk about all things related to spirituality, personal development, manifestation, well-being, and so much more. So I invite you to subscribe to this channel if that sounds like a good time to you, and give this video a thumbs up if you find it helpful. So today we are going to be talking all about the post-diet for ayahuasca. So we're going to talk about why this is important, why does it matter. We're going to talk about the details of the diet immediately after, so in the days after your ceremony, and then also in the weeks and months after your ceremony. We're going to talk about some kind of just general tips and suggestions, and then we're really going to get into detail with specific foods and food groups, everything that you can eat, everything that you need to let go of, and also how, like a little bit of information on mindful eating. The way that you eat, the mindset and energy involved is just as important as what you are consuming. And just the different ways that you can best nourish yourself that will really support you in your integration process, and just also in achieving the most long-lasting transformation with this medicine and just with your own healing in general. I do actually have a completely separate video where I talk about the pre-diet for before your ceremonies. And I also have a video where I talk about some just general insights and tips and understandings from my experience working at an ayahuasca retreat center in Peru. So if either of those interest you, I will link both of those videos in the information box below this. Feel free to check them out. Let's talk about why the post-diet is even important. Like, why do you need to continue with the diet after your retreat? The first thing I will say here is the medicine is still with you after you finish your ceremonies. And the amount of time that is taking place can, vary depending on the person and what they believe. I think that ayahuasca is always with you after your ceremonies, but especially in the, weeks and months after your ceremony. Yeah, I believe that ayahuasca is still with you very, very strongly. There is that energetic connection that is still quite potent. And so it's important to continue to kind of detox your body, allow your body to cleanse itself and really fuel it with the most nourishing foods possible, gentle foods, things like that. Also because you potentially have experienced a lot of purging in your ceremonies. Because of the purging and because of working with ayahuasca, your system has been deeply, deeply cleansed. And as a result, it is quite sensitive. Physically, you are quite sensitive, and also energetically. And you can even think of it, when you work with ayahuasca, in many cases, you are in a way receiving like an energetic upgrade, a shift in your energy. And so it's really important to support yourself with the right foods that will support you through this change, through this vibrational and energetic shift. That is why it's so, so, so important to really be aware and conscious of what you are eating and how, and the energetics behind the food that you are eating in the time after your ayahuasca ceremonies. So really eating as clean and whole foods based as possible. Getting into some general practices, just some general tips for how to best eat and what to best eat after your ceremonies. The most important thing to focus on here is just whole, unprocessed foods. Eating as clean as possible, eating as naturally as possible, and really doing your best to avoid processed foods, packaged foods, different things like that. If you can eat organic, amazing. Then that is really, really supportive to your system. However, if that's not something that's available to you, then just do your best. Everything that we eat comes with an energetic impact. And so one thing that I want to note here is that, especially when it comes to animal products, if you're someone who is, getting back into eating animal products after the retreat, please, please, please keep in mind that the way that that animal was treated throughout its entire life really factors into the energy that you are taking into your system when you consume it. And so if that animal lived its entire life in a factory, cramped up in cages, or watching other animals day after day being taken off to slaughter, like, what kind of energy was in that animal? What kind of fear, what kind of sadness and anxiety was in that animal when it finally was taken off to slaughter as well, and was building up in its body for who knows how long. And so that's not necessarily the kind of energy that you want to be taking into your system. So please, please, please be aware of that. If you are able to seek out, sources of meat from local farmers where you can see how they treat their animals, where you are aware of the fact that, they're able to roam free and really live their lives and not be cramped up in cages, and they're being treated as humanely as possible, that is going to really support you in kind of reducing that energetic negativity that you otherwise would be taking in consuming animal products from animals that were raised in like factory farms and slaughterhouses and things like that. So keep that in mind. If you can support a local farmer, then absolutely I would recommend doing so. So yeah, clean, whole foods, unprocessed foods, and also focus on how you eat. It's not just about what. It's so important to think about how you are consuming your foods and what is your energy that is going into those foods when you are consuming them. Because the truth is, you could be eating the cleanest foods in the world, but if you are consuming them with judgment towards yourself or negative energy, or thinking about how that person at work was such an asshole today, like, that's the energy that's going into your food, regardless of what you're eating. And vice versa. Like, you could be eating something that maybe most people don't consider healthy, but if you're doing it with gratitude and appreciation and love, and surrounded by family and people that you care about, and you're just filled with all of this really, really positive energy, I mean, which one is going to be better for you in that situation? Honestly, I would say possibly the unhealthy food. So I don't want to make like a blanket statement on that, but I do think that energetics are huge and they're really something to consider. So please, please, please do your best to eat mindfully. When you sit down with your food, be present with that meal. Avoid distractions, avoid being on your phone or being on your computer or watching TV. And if you're alone, then be present with that meal, be present with yourself. If you're with loved ones, be with them, and send gratitude to the food before you eat it. Gratitude for everything that went into making that food possible for you. The rain, the sunshine, the soil, Mother Nature, whoever may have cooked that meal for you. Maybe it was you, maybe it was a loved one. And of course, the food itself. So the animal, the plant that you are consuming. Sending gratitude into that food is such a powerful practice anytime that you are sitting down with a meal. Also, chewing. And I will not pretend that I am the best at this, because honestly, I'm not. But it is something that I continue to work on. If you can do your best to really chew your food, eat slowly, then it will really be supportive of your digestion, and it's actually good for the mouth, for the jaw, and for your breathing as well. So something that we can all work on together is chewing more slowly and really eating our food with intention and presence. Okay, so those are just some basics, some general guidelines, but there are some specific foods and specific food groups that we want to be especially mindful of in the days and weeks and months moving forward after the ceremony. So let's go ahead and get into those. Number one is very important, and it is pork. This is a very multi-layered discussion. Pigs are incredibly intelligent animals, with studies showing that they're actually even more intelligent than dogs, and some studies showing that they are probably around the same level of intelligence as like a 9 or 10-year-old child. So if you think about that, if you have kids, if you have nieces or nephews, you know that a 10-year-old child is very, very, very intelligent. And so pigs are about at that same level. And because of that level of intelligence, they're hyper aware, they're quite sensitive to everything that is happening around them. So when pigs in, say a slaughterhouse are taken off to slaughter, the energetic impact of that is through the roof, like really, really, really high, because they're so conscious of what's happening. And so the fear, the anxiety, the tension is even higher in this animal than maybe for some other animals. So that is super important to keep in mind just on an energetic level. And also, pigs are not necessarily the cleanest animals. So even just on a physical level, pigs will eat absolutely anything. Like, they're often fed expired Halloween candy, and they also cannot sweat. So pigs are not able to release the toxins from their own body because they can't sweat. And so when we consume pork, we're just like taking in all of these different energies, all of these different toxins that have built up in their life. And it's not the most supportive thing to be taking in ever, but especially not after a plant medicine journey. So this is actually one food that, of all of the shamans that I have worked with and met, it is the one thing that they will not eat. Whether or not they eat fish, chicken, whatever it may be, none of them will eat pork, at least the ones that I've met. And so this is definitely something to consider for yourself. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you what to do long term, but for me personally, I have chosen to abstain from eating pork moving forward. And other things I'm a little bit more flexible with, but I've just chosen to not eat pork. So I leave that up to you and what feels right for you and your body, but just leaving you with those insights on pork and why it is so important to avoid it after your ceremony. So if you cannot eat pork moving forward, great. If that is not possible for you, if that's just not going to work for you, do your best, please, to wait at least 2 months after the ceremony to reintroduce pork back into your diet. All other red meats, please abstain for at least 1 week. 2 weeks would be even better if possible. And again, this kind of ties into the energetics of animal products. And when it comes to chicken and fish, this is really going to depend on, number one, individual preferences, and number two, the recommendations of your shamans or your facilitators or the retreat center that you are working with. Some retreat centers actually serve chicken and fish throughout the entire retreat. And so if that's the case, continue on after the retreat. But if they have not, if maybe you've followed a completely vegan or vegetarian diet during your retreat, really, I would say it's best to talk to your, retreat facilitators or shamans and get their recommendations on the best way to move forward with chicken and fish. It is best to wait 1 week after your retreat before you reintroduce spicy foods back into your diet. Again, your systems are super, super clean and sensitive at this time, so best to allow a little bit of space before reintroducing spicy foods back into your diet. And when you do so slowly and really honor your body and pay attention to its cues. If it doesn't like it, maybe give it a little bit more time. But if within a week you start to reintroduce spicy foods and you're doing great, then by all means, keep going. Coffee. I know, trust me, I understand. Just try your best to give it a week after the retreat. You've already gone this far, you can do another week. And this actually is interesting because this has less to do with the caffeine. The caffeine, obviously, aspect is important, but a big reason that coffee is something that you want to hold off on for about a week is because it's a very acidic beverage. And that acidity is not something that's going to support you with how sensitive your body is in this moment. So yeah, do your best, avoid the coffee, and in a week, you can start to reintroduce that slowly back into your diet. Salt, oil, and sugar. So let's start with salt, because that's what I said first. So when it comes to salt, you can slowly start to incorporate this back into your diet within just a couple of days. I mean, obviously don't overdo it, but salt is certainly not going to be the worst thing for you, reintegrating it back into your diet. And something to note here, I think a lot of people think that salt is unhealthy. And if you are eating a whole food based diet and you are not someone that's eating like tons of packaged and processed foods, there is no problem adding some salt to your diet. Like, it is not an issue. Where people have a problem with salt and sodium is when their whole diet is basically processed. So don't worry about adding salt to your diet, but do your best to get good quality salt. So like a really nice quality sea salt or pink Himalayan salt, mineral salt, something like that, versus just your kind of average table salt. And that way you're getting the good extra minerals that come with it. And even, some people will add a little bit of salt into their water, like a good mineral salt, and that supports your body in getting more of those minerals that you need. And it also supports you in better hydrating yourself with the water that you are drinking. For oils, please stay away from processed oils, vegetable oils. Vegetable oils are not healthy because they say vegetable. So please stay away from those, from canola oil. If you are going to be using oils, then a good quality olive oil or coconut oil or avocado oil can be good. And when it comes to these, it's important to note that you do not want to heat the oils above their smoking point. The reason for that is because when you heat the oils to their smoking point, it can actually become toxic. It essentially is releasing carcinogens, which are harmful to the body. So for example, olive oil, you might not want to be cooking foods where you're cooking at a really high temperature. Better to use like the coconut oil for something like that, and then use the olive oil for lower temperature cooking or like salad dressings and things of that nature. And then finally, sugar. I would really recommend doing your best to stay away from processed, refined white sugar as much as possible. I do not believe in like rules long term when it comes to food, because I really think that when we are too strict, it can cause issues. Eating disorders, disordered eating, challenging relationships with food. And I think that it's really important that we all just do our best and trust and honor our bodies. But if you're gonna have a little treat every once in a while, by all means, enjoy and do it without guilt. That being said, if you can avoid processed, refined white sugar, on a daily basis or like consistently, then that is definitely going to be best for you. And there are so many alternatives to refined sugar nowadays. You can use dates, and there's beautiful desserts that can be made just with fresh dates. You can use coconut sugar, monk fruit sweetener, stevia. I am not going to say that all of those are the healthiest things in the world. There's different debates out there as to if agave is healthy and if coconut sugar is just sugar. And that's a conversation for another day, okay? But as natural as you can get, the better, right? So good quality, local honey, the dates, things like that. Those are really, really beautiful ways to sweeten your foods naturally and to avoid the super processed refined sugar. Beer and wine. So beer and wine can be consumed 2 weeks after the retreat, preferably with food, preferably no more than 1 glass. Red wine does have tannins in it, and so this can disrupt the gut. Also, for some people, might cause headaches. So best to wait 3 weeks before you reintroduce red wine back into your diet. Keep in mind here that when it comes to alcohol, getting drunk can essentially sever the connection. It can cut the energetic connection that you have formed with ayahuasca. And so it's really, really important to avoid getting drunk in the time, in the weeks after you have worked with this medicine, so that you can continue to maintain and support your relationship as you are really continuing to work with the medicine throughout your integration process. Similarly, moving into hard alcohol or spirits, you are going to want to wait 1 month after the retreat. And keep in mind here, like, this is really interesting to me, but spirits, in the sense of alcohol, were actually named spirits because of this idea, this concept, that when we drink alcohol, we are essentially disconnecting a little bit from our own soul or our own spirit, and energetically we are opening up space to allow other energies or spirits, however you want to think of it, to come in and take up that space. And so this is kind of why, I know I've experienced this, I don't want to speak for everyone, but if you've had too much to drink, you might not act like yourself. You may black out. You may, have kind of like a different personality. And so it's super, super important to avoid drinking this kind of alcohol in the time after your ceremony. And also think of this as like alcohol for shamans and many different medicine workers and even herbalists. It's actually used as a tool. The plant, for example, is put into the alcohol. It's submerged into the alcohol. The alcohol is actually what extracts the essence of that plant, which is then used to make the medicine. So in the same way, alcohol, when we drink it, is extracting an essence of ourselves. So I would recommend staying away from alcohol for as long as you can. And when you do start to reintroduce it, everything in moderation, right? So if you can have a glass, 2 glasses at the most, then that will really support you. Dairy products, you can start reincorporating into your diet within 3 to 4 days. And again, if you can shop for high quality local dairy products, that's amazing. The only thing to note here is blue cheese. If you are a blue cheese lover, best to wait a month. I know that sounds crazy, but the reason for this is actually because of the mold that is in blue cheese. It can cause a little bit of disruptive upset in the body, again, because we are so sensitive. So allow yourself a little bit more time before you bring that delicious blue cheese back into your diet. I don't like blue cheese, so this was not a problem for me. Fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, things like that. 1 week after the retreat, you can start to reintroduce these back into your diet, and different people might experience this a little bit differently, uniquely, depending on your gut, depending on how sensitive you are. So do just listen to your own body. And side note here as well, although yogurt could be considered a fermented food, this would fall more in the category of dairy. So yogurt, it's okay to start to consume within 3 to 4 days. Ooh, here comes a big one. Marijuana or cannabis. I also talked about this in the pre-diet, and I'll say it again, I said it there. Please don't shoot the messenger, okay? Take it or leave it, listen or don't. But here's the deal. Cannabis, marijuana, is a master plant. It is a plant teacher. And a lot of people, I think, kind of forget this because it's so easy to access. But it's really, really important that it is used with intention, that it is used with respect. And because you've just worked with something as powerful as ayahuasca, it's best to allow a little bit of space, about a month, before working with another really, really powerful plant medicine. Maybe other centers, maybe other shamans will have other recommendations. And again, listen to yourself. That being said, I have noticed for others, witnessing other people's experiences, that it did really support them to allow for that month after their ceremony before starting to work with cannabis again. And when you do start to reintroduce cannabis, do so with as much respect as you would with ayahuasca. Like, have a clear intention, do it in a ceremonial setting, and See what kind of difference this makes for you and for your relationship with this medicine. If you are someone who uses CBD oil, you can reintroduce that in 3 to 4 days. Other natural plant medicines or psychedelics, so iboga, peyote, mushrooms, for example, same thing here. Allow for a month after your ceremony and set and setting, have an intention, use them with respect and in a ceremonial space if possible. Let's talk about sex. Okay, let's talk about sex. Sexual energy is extremely, extremely powerful. It is a beautiful energy, and it is so important that this energy is respected. So I do recommend allowing for about a week after your ceremony before you start to engage in any kind of sexual activity, including personal sex. And as you start to re-engage with sexual activity, please, please, please treat yourself, treat your partner, treat your own body with the love and respect that you very, very deeply deserve. This is so important. And again, it all comes back to energy. What is the energy? What is the mentality and mindset that is being experienced through you in these circumstances, in these situations? Be aware of how you feel and how your body is responding on an energetic level, and always, always, always respect that. Respect yourself, respect your body, respect your partner as much as possible. All right, so before I get into the final tips, I'm just gonna recap, really, really quickly recap what we've just kind of been through. So long story short, the most important thing here is to eat as whole foods, healthy, nourishing, clean as you possibly can, and to really avoid the processed, the packaged, the refined sugar, things like that, and to really pay attention to the energy of what has gone into your food and the energy that you yourself are putting into your food, and to be mindful, to be intentional with what you are consuming and how you are consuming as well. Honor your own body. This is so huge. Like, if nothing else, if you listen to none of what we've talked about today, but you move forward in honoring and listening to and trusting your own body, then that is the best thing that could possibly come of this. So trust yourself, honor yourself, and what feels best, what feels right to you. And remember that ayahuasca is not an overnight pill, right? I talked about this in one of my other videos. Your journey with ayahuasca has just begun. And true transformation, really lasting transformation, comes from your dedication and the choices that you make moving forward to continue to grow, to continue to heal and transform yourself and live the life that you truly want and deserve and are meant to live. So your dedication, your choices are the most important thing moving forward. And the diet is just a piece of that. And it's a beautiful way that you can continue to commit to your own healing, commit to nourishing yourself. And hopefully by nourishing yourself in this way, that will kind of trickle off and you will continue to nourish yourself in other ways as well. My final tips are just to be patient, to really honor yourself, and to know that you don't have to be perfect. Just do your best. We are human. We're not perfect. We're not meant to be perfect. And so do your best. If you eat something that doesn't adhere to the diet, move on, right? In your next meal or the next day, you can start to eat clean again and fuel your body with these beautiful, nourishing foods. But don't stress about it. Don't judge yourself. Be proud of how far you have come. I really, really hope that this video has been helpful for you. If you have any questions about ayahuasca, about spirituality, personal development, wellness, health, whatever is on your heart, please, please, please leave a comment below this video. I would love to connect with you. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. I share new videos every single week. And until next time, I will see you in the next video.